How much proof of Jesus do we really have? Oftentimes, people who are claiming the belief in the Bible and the belief in Jesus will say that there are at least 42 plus different outside sources as well as inside sources of the proof of the claim of Jesus. But when you really boil it down, what you actually have is zero claims that would identify that the Jesus character actually survived and lived, or that the writings that are writings and sayings that are ascribed to him, or the things that he did, the activities within the Bible, there's absolutely zero proof of it. And as a matter of fact, what you have is the worst type of proof, the proof that will indicate that the Jesus character really is a thing of legend, is a literary character. Because out of all the writings concerning this person, Jesus, absolutely no one gives historical events, historical sources as to who and where and how they gained this information. In the book of Luke, it says that he went and interviewed all these different people, that he talked to these other people. Those are his only sources based on his own word. But what we don't have is any proof of any of the people existing. Does he say exactly whom he spoke to? He says that he spoke to the apostles. But did he give any credible information as to identify which apostles he spoke to? Did he give any credible information that would prove that these apostles actually existed? He gave us none. The thing about it, if I were to quote someone, we can go and research and find out whether or not that person existed. If I quoted Nietzsche, we can go and find out, did Nietzsche exist? Did he write papers during his time frame? Were there historians and contemporaries at his time frame that would demonstrate that Nietzsche was there, that he published the works that he published? We can do the same thing with multiple people throughout history, where we can look at contemporaries. But yet with the Jesus character, we have absolutely no one can validate the existence of any apostles or the existence of the Jesus character himself. And that is absolutely the worst type, because that is just somebody making a claim without any proof. That is someone who is just stating something. When I reference certain materials, I tell you exactly where it came from. If I spoke about the Euripides, or I spoke about Orpheus, I told you where it came from. If I talked about the Bacchae, I tell you exactly who wrote it and when did they write it, and when, or if it was supposedly written at this time frame. But we would have, what we do have is like in the story of Orpheus, we actually have information that details all the centuries that this play was done over and over and over and over and over again into the 2nd, 3rd, 4th century CE, that was originated in about the 5th century BCE. This is the lack that we have within the Bible. You see, when you say that, oh, we have Thalius, and oh, we have Pliny the Younger, and oh, we have Tacitus. Tacitus is merely stating what people believed. Pliny is merely stating what people believed. Josephus, even himself, is just stating that there were multiple Yeshuas, 2 who were high priests, but of different fathers. One was the father of the other. But what we don't have is any proof of this Jesus of the Bible, of Peter, of Paul, of any of these people. Sure, we got letters that people ascribe and say that Paul wrote these letters, but yet Paul never tells his own story. His story of how he became a disciple of Jesus is actually told by Luke in the book of Acts, if Luke is actually the author of Acts. We cannot even prove that Luke wrote Luke or Luke wrote Acts. There is much debate right now that Luke may have been written by another author who was copying and expanded on the Marcion gospel. The only thing we have about the Marcion gospel is the fact that the church deemed it heresy, burned all of it, and they spoke negatively of it. And therefore, that's the only information we have about it. So that's how we know these things, that there was a Marcion gospel, because these other authors during the time frame of Marcion spoke ills about it, talked about it, said how it was heresy. So therefore, we don't actually have any proof of that. And the only reason we know that we can give any credibility to Thalius is because he was repeated by Africanus, who was repeated by another author. and is quoted in theirs, and they claim and say that they are quoting those authors. But that is all we have. So how do we validate it? We do not have anybody at the time frame of Thalius. No one in 50 or 60 CE wrote and talked about Thalius. And although there were many historians in and around the time frame of Jesus, not one of them wrote about a man who fed 5,000 people with a 2-piece fish sandwich. At the time of Jesus, there were all these historians and writers, and no one wrote about the miracles of healing. No one wrote about the 500 plus dead people walking around Jerusalem at the time frame of the crucifixion, like they got some walk around money. Nobody talked about this undead walking around Jerusalem. No Roman writers at that time frame. Pilate didn't write about it, didn't say anything about it. No other historian wrote or said anything about 500 zombies walking around Jerusalem at the time frame of the so-called resurrection of Jesus. The belief in Jesus is purely faith-based. Nothing beyond that, nothing more. It is something, a story that was created and people latched onto it and continue to believe it. People believe the agent who was going around Rome helping to build these Christian churches in order to shut down the Jewish revolts. We have zero proof of the Jesus character or his apostles. What we do have proof of is people believed it. And belief in something is not proof of something. I can believe that the sky is purple, but it's not. But I can believe it all day. And if I say it long enough and loud enough, some of you will look at that blue sky and say, it does have somewhat of a purplish tinge to it. And all of a sudden, you believe the sky is purple because your eyes will see what your brain convinces itself of what is reality and what is not. So the proof of Jesus, we have absolutely none. And if we do not have any proof of Jesus, then why should I believe in this Jesus? Because somebody said so? Somebody who thought that storms and droughts came about because of a God, when you know that there are weather patterns that create all these things. People who believed that the reason why they were suffering through slavery or were conquered by another nation was deemed by their God, but not the military expertise of another group. No, it is not worth it. It is not worth it. So I hope this is freeing to some of you. Always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.